Black Ops 7 is dropping in a couple days, and a lot has changed since the esports World Cup in July, with team relocations, roster changes, and entirely new mechanics that's going to flip the CDL on its head. The actual CDL season begins on December 5th, and since the last time I talked about this, they've come out with a lot of new information on the upcoming season, so here's everything you should know before the season gets underway. As you can tell by my voice, I'm pretty sick right now, so just bear with me, but let's get right into it. First, we have to start with the biggest changes, and that is obviously the game itself. BO7 is unlike any other COD title we've seen before, and with the release of Battlefield, the devs have been doing everything they can to compete, and I think they delivered. One of the biggest changes coming to the CDL specifically is the new game mode Overload. It's set to replace Control, which has been in the rotation since Black Ops 4. Essentially, there's an overload device that spawns in the center of the map, and each team has 2 zones that they must protect, and the goal is to bring the overload device to the enemy zone 8 times for the round to end. It kind of reminds me of the Blitz game mode in Ghosts, but with a twist. This will completely change team compositions and introduce a new layer of strategy, requiring players to learn something they've never played before at the pro level. I've seen a lot of mixed reactions, like Karma saying, "I wasn't a fan of Control, but I'm not too sure about Overload." We will see. But at the very least, the CDL is trying something different after years of people, including myself, wanting a different game mode. In addition to the game mode changes, the game itself will be completely different. It's now a refined Omni movement system. On top of that, we got wall jumping. There's no wall running or like jetpacks or anything, as the game is set in 2035. Some new guns have been revealed since the last time I talked about BO7, and one in specific is the MSMC from Black Ops 2. I'm really excited to try that one out. Tactical Sprint has also been removed and can now only be unlocked with a perk. There's so many new maps coming, and remastered ones like Raid, Express, and Standoff, so at the very least we have good maps, and I thought the maps from the beta were pretty good as well, so I'm excited to see which ones come into the rotation as the pros start to play more. They've even announced some new remaster maps coming, like Meltdown, and a bunch more content coming with season 1, but that's just from the beta and what they told us so far. It's also important to note that with the wall jumping mechanic, these maps could play completely different than they used to. A lot of this information has circulated throughout the past few months, so you probably know a lot about the game already, so hopefully that was a little refresher before it actually drops. But there have been some new developments as far as team changes go. There were so many moving parts happening outside the game, and Atlanta FaZe was the first domino to fall. After they lost to Omit, the trio split, and roster changes started taking place left and right. Atlanta FaZe isn't even a thing anymore because they changed its brand name to FaZe Vegas. Minnesota changed its brand to G2 Minnesota. Toronto Ultra rebranded to Toronto Koi. Vegas Falcons relocated from Vegas to Riyadh, so now they're the Riyadh Falcons. And I thought the LA Gorilla Mates were going to change their branding, but at the time of recording, they still haven't changed anything. And on their Twitter, it has a bunch of question marks where their city name should be, so I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with that. But they did release a poll and said, for no particular reason, what do you prefer? So I'm gonna just assume that they're gonna be the Paris Gentlemates. It's crazy because now with all these team relocations and different brandings and everything, there is no longer any original CDL team branding since the CDL began to now. Here's a little graphic too so that you can actually see like what the organization started as. But that's all the rebrands. Now for the actual roster changes, because this was one of the most eventful off seasons that still has moving parts to this day. FaZe parted ways with Celium, who went to the Falcons, and Abizi left FaZe as well, and he went to LA Thieves. So now the new FaZe Vegas roster is Simp, Draza, 04, and Abuza, who I have pretty high hopes for. Falcons signed Celium, Pred, Kismet, and Xnid. Kismet had a rough year with the Gentlemates last year, so now seeing him on a much better team this year is exciting, and I think he's going to have a bounce back season. There's a lot of question marks still about Xnid and to whether or not he will be ready, but just seeing him from his rookie season, he has insane talent and gun skill, and I think as he continues to get reps, he's only going to get better, and he has championship players on his team to help guide him in the right direction. LA Thieves have Abizi, Kenny, Scrap, and Hydra. Now on paper, Kenny and Abizi are a downgrade from last year, but realistically, I think this team is going to be extremely good. I think the sub duo of Abizi and Hydra is next level, and I know Kenny kind of struggled last year, but he brings a lot more to the table than just the in-game stuff. I mean, he's going to be a great leader for this team. It's not official, but LA Gorillas have been rumored to have Sib, Neptune, Ghosty, and Envoy, and there's been a lot of question marks with this team, especially with the personalities clashing, so when they do have difficult splits and stuff, it's going to be on them to learn how to communicate and work out their differences. It's also pretty ironic that Neptune and Ghosty are teaming because Ghosty went on a rampage at EWC. Obviously, the world champs optics stayed the same. Miami Heretics lost Real after he accepted an offer to Toronto Koi, so now Toronto Koi is Real, Joe Deceives, Kleenex, and Insight, who I think is going to be a championship contender this season. Heretics picked up Trakes, who's a new rookie that I personally haven't seen much from, but from what I've been hearing around the league, he's a really talented good player, and the Spanish project continues. Boston Breach picked up Nasty, so now it's Cammy, Purge, Snoopy, and Nasty. And I actually like the fact that those three players stuck together. Not only is it building great team chemistry, but they also work really well together. Last time I talked about BO7, I didn't even know if Ravens were going to be around this year after they bailed out of EWC, but they are sticking it out, and they announced their new roster of Slasher, Nero, Lurk, and Craze. Slasher's going into his 13th season, and he's only one of 3 players to do so. His job security needs to be studied. Craze had a breakout event at EWC, and there were question marks about whether Nero would be back in the league, but he made it and even rubbed it in a little bit. I don't know too much about Lurk. All I know is that he's a young player who spent some time in Challengers last year, and at least he has Thanos to help guide the squad. I don't have super high hopes for this team, but you never know. Now, the rest of these teams are just rumored rosters. I'm pretty sure this is what they're going to be, but these teams just haven't made official announcements. So G2 is Mamba, Skies, Estriel, and Kremp. Mamba was with Craze at EWC when they went off, and I'm glad he got a spot in the league. The Kremp and Estriel SMG duo should be pretty nasty, but I do have a lot of question marks about Skies. I mean, he hasn't really played that well since winning a ring in 2023, so this will be his opportunity to prove everyone wrong. I just don't know if they have the firepower to compete with the top teams. Vancouver Surge is Legend, Gwyn, Abe, and Lunars. Legend is coming from Halo. He just placed second at the Halo World Championship. Gwyn had an off year last season. He obviously showed his individual potential, but it seemed like he was stat padding most of the season. Abe also showed promise at EWC, and Lunars had his rookie year last year. And last but not least, we have Cloud9 New York with Afro, Beans, Vivid, and Mac. Vivid and Mac were part of the Omet Brooklyn team with Craze and Mamba. Afro was part of LA Thieves and MW3, but then he got released mid-season and played through Challengers all last year. And Beans was part of the Toronto Ultra roster. I've said this before, I've always been a fan of Beans. I think he's a great player. At the same time, I don't expect this team to contend for a championship either. I feel like they're going to be like a top 8 team at best. Vivid has just been one of the most unluckiest players in the CDL. He's been dropped so many times, but I'm glad that he's getting a spot in the league. And it's also nice to see Afro back after taking that time to grind and become better in Challengers. It's no doubt that all these players are extremely talented, but when it comes to Call of Duty, teamwork truly makes the dream work. And so it all comes down to how these players are going to work together. Like I said, there's a whole new game mode in this title, so it's going to add a whole new element to teamwork and having to figure things out for the first time. There could be a lot of clashing of heads, could be a lot of roster changes throughout the season, but I'm excited to watch it all go down. All these changes open the door for the most unpredictable CDL season yet, and more things could change as scrims get underway. So that's all the players we're going to be watching, but now we actually have a 2026 season roadmap. They introduced where all the majors are taking place and all the format changes that are coming to the qualifiers to make them more interesting to watch. So first we have Major 1 in Dallas, Texas. So then they're taking it overseas to the UK at Birmingham DreamHack for Major 2 on March 27th. Then they're coming to the east coast of the US in Atlanta, Georgia in May. Pretty funny how like we've always wanted an Atlanta event, but now that FaZe has left Atlanta, they do an event there. And then for the last major of the season, it's in Paris, France on June 25th through the 28th. And then we're going to Vegas for COD Champs on July 16th. And then the Esports World Cup is taking place from July 6th to August 23rd. So Black Ops 7 will be there again. I'm just not sure what date exactly. The qualifiers are going to be completely different because each major will feature its own unique structure, adding new stakes for every event. The minor tournaments are making a return for Major 3 and 4, giving teams a chance to earn extra CDL points and extra prize money. Major 2 will be an 8-team major following a full round robin qualifier where every team faces one another. Teams seeded 7 through 10 will be put into a play-in bracket at the end of the qualifiers to secure a top 8 spot in the bracket. But Major 3 is the one I'm most excited for because this will be a 16-team tournament featuring 4 challengers teams in a pro-am style. They will face off in group play, and the top 8 teams will advance into a double elimination bracket. So it's nice to see challenger players get the chance to shine for at least one event. And speaking of challengers, the circuit is going to expand its schedule and the regions. So the MENA region is being added to challengers, and there will be 4 challenger open events at each major along with 4 elite stages. This is great news for the amateur scene, and I hope we get to see some challenger players really break through this year. I think these format changes will be good because the qualifiers last year got stale really quick, but now that there's new stakes and every qualifiers has stakes attached to it that will apply to each major, it'll give viewers an incentive to watch and give players extra motivation to compete. The final new piece of information we've received is for viewers like me and you. The CDL is now streaming on Twitch and YouTube instead of exclusively on YouTube. Now personally, I'll probably still watch on YouTube because of ads and a better rewind feature, but it's still good for those of you who mainly watch on Twitch. It'll bring some more eyes onto the CDL scene. Like I said, the opening weekend is December 5th through the 7th, and the first match is the Rion Falcons versus versus Optic Texas. And also on that same day, we have LA Thieves versus FaZe Vegas. So we get to see a BZ versus Simp on the first day of matches, which I'm really excited for. The CDL is embarking on a new chapter for Black Ops 7, and there are plenty of changes to look forward to. Overload, new movement, and new and remastered maps will change everything about the game itself. The roster changes will create improved storylines, and last, tournaments will be taking place all over the world with new format changes to make each qualifier worth watching. It's going to be a fun year to watch the Call of Duty League, and we'll get to see it all play out live on December 5th. So let me know what you guys are thinking. If you enjoyed this video, check out my recent one where I talked about the story of Insight. Hope y'all have a great week. Hope you enjoy playing Black Ops 7, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.